All right, good evening, everyone. It's 6:30, so I'm going to call this meeting of the Columbus Common Council regular meeting to order. It's Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. Again, we are using Zoom teleconference since March and continue to use it this evening for staff and council members. This evening we have Alder Ian Gray and Alder Katie Ryan joining us via Zoom, and the rest of the council members are here in person. And also tonight we have Deputy Clerk Jane Foodie helping us. Pat's on vacation. With that, could you please take a roll call for us?
Adams. Present. Gray.
Present.
McCabe.
Here.
Pfeifferle.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Ryan. Here. Tom.
Here. Can everyone on Zoom hear us all right this evening? I see a lot of head shaking. Thank you. All right. If able, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. This meeting has been noticed in accordance with state statutes and local ordinance. The next item then is to approve the agenda. One note before we approve the agenda, there is a redundant item that we have on this meeting and the committee of the whole. That would be item number 10 on this agenda is the same number 13 on the committee of the whole. I don't know if anyone has any strong opinions right now, whether we just leave it on here and discuss it during the regular meeting, and if need be, we can always refer it to the committee of the whole if it needs further discussion. Is everyone okay with that? All right, unless there's anything else, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Alder Adams moves to approve the agenda.
Alder Pfeifferle second that.
I have a motion by Adams, a second by Pfeifferle to approve the agenda. Any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, on to correspondence and communications. We had no one signed up in person this evening, and the city administrators indicated that there were no emails sent in today for citizen comments. So we have no citizen comment, correspondence, or communication this evening. We'll move on to the consent agenda. This evening we have the Council and Committee of the Whole minutes for August 4th, 2020, and there are no operators' licenses submitted. Unless there's any questions on the consent agenda, I'll take a motion to approve.
Alder Pfeifferle will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Alder Adams seconds.
Motion from Pfeifferle and second from Adams to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Thank you. We'll go on to new business item number 1 then. Consider and take action on the 2020 crack ceiling bid recommendations. This was discussed at the last committee of the whole meeting. The recommendation from our city engineer, Rupert Milkey, for the crack ceiling was to award the bid to Thunder Road LLC in the amount of $6,480. This comes out of our annual street maintenance budget, which is $75,000. The remaining in the budget would be used for slurry sealing and also the county highway aid project. Are there any questions on the 2020 crack ceiling bid recommendation? Jason is here if there are any questions. I see no questions. I'll entertain a motion to approve and award the 2020 crack seal bid to Thunder Road LLC.
McCabe makes a motion to approve of the bid for the 2020 crack sealing program.
Second.
Motion from McCabe, second from Ryan to approve or to award the 2020 crack seal bid as recommended to Thunder Road LLC in the amount of $6,480. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, could you please take a roll call on that, Pat? Or sorry, Jane.
Adams.
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Tyson.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Ryan. Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Sorry about that, Jane. I might do it again tonight if I don't continue to look up. All right, we have a companion to that. That would be for the slurry seal recommendations, item number 2. We have a recommendation, again, from the city engineer to award this contract to Farner Asphalt Sealers LLC in the amount of $52,090. They were the low bidder on the project. Again, that comes from the same street maintenance budget, which leaves, if awarded, leaves $16,430 available for potential county highway aid project. Any questions on the slurry seal bid recommendation? Jason is here. I see no questions. I'll entertain a motion to approve or award the 2020 slurry seal to Farner Asphalt.
Alder Pfeiffer will make a motion to approve the 2020 slurry sealing program to Farner Asphalt Sealers LLC.
Alder Adams seconds.
Alder Gray seconds.
All right. We'll have a motion from Pfeiffer on in 2 seconds. Jane, I'll let you pick. There we go. Yep. To award the 2020 slurry seal bid to Farner Asphalt Sealers LLC in the amount of $52,090. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, then could you please take a roll call for us, Pat?
Gray.
Jane. Boy, this is going to be a long night.
Gray.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Tyson.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Ryan. Aye. Adams.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to new business number 3. Consider and take action on the Hibbert Street reconstruction project change order number 1. This was also discussed at the last committee of the whole. The change order does not reflect any change to the cost of the project. It's just the beginning and the end dates that need to be changed in the contract. I think the original substantial completion was for 8/21, and this is being extended out to November 13th for the change order. Is that correct? Jason indicates that's correct. Are there any questions for Jason on this? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Hibbert Street reconstruction project change order number 1.
Alder Adams moves to approve the Hibbert Street change order number 1.
Alder Pfeiffer makes a second.
Motion from Adams, second from Pfeiffer to approve the change order. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Move on to new business number 4. Consider and take action on the wastewater treatment plant influence screen replacement change order number 1. This was presented to the council at the last committee of the whole meeting. Changes included the addition of aluminum stiffeners on plate covers to correct warping due to their size, the addition of 4 explosion-proof light fixtures that were originally planned for reuse, and a credit for some plumbing revisions. The net financial impact on the project is $2,664. That was adjusted somewhat since it was originally submitted due to some communication between staff and the vendors, and we definitely appreciate those savings. Are there any questions on this? Jason's available as well. Trina?
Oh, I had a quick question. Let's see, does the paperwork on the Monona plumbing and fire protection go with this one?
I do believe.
I was just wondering when it mentions that they're going to put in a new 3-inch floor drain connected to the 4-inch sanitary line. Does it matter that the size is different?
Jason, do you have an answer for that? You're referring to this page, Trina?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. Yes, Monona Plumbing and Fire is a subcontractor to Staub Construction, so they're doing all the plumbing work. And so it is a floor drain, so the drain obviously is a smaller diameter than the actual receiving lateral underneath. So it's, by code, it's okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Any other questions on the wastewater treatment plant change order? good?
I'm good.
All right. If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the project change order for the wastewater treatment plant influence screen replacement.
Alder Pfeiffer makes a motion to approve the wastewater treatment plant influence screen replacement project change order number 1.
Alder Adams seconds.
A motion from Pfeiffer on a second from Adams to approve the change order as submitted in the amount of $2,664. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, could we please take a roll call? Jane?
Pfeiffer,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan. Aye. Adams,
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. On to new business. Number 5, consider and take action on the ordinance 754-20, an ordinance to create sections 102-367 of the City of Columbus Code of Ordinances concerning the replacement of lead service lines. This was brought to us from the Columbus Water and Light Commission. They've been working on this ordinance for quite some time. It was reviewed at the Committee of the Whole. I don't remember anything specific coming out of the Committee of the Whole in discussion, and that's why it's been brought to the council for consideration. Are there any questions on the ordinance? We've got Joe here from Water and Light. He can help answer questions. I see no questions. If it is the desire to adopt this ordinance this evening, we would first have to have a motion, a second, to suspend the rules, then also waive the reading, and then adopt the ordinance this evening, if that's the will of the council.
Alder Gray moves to suspend the rules.
Alder Adams seconds.
All right, we have a motion by Gray, second by Adams to suspend the rules. Any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Rules have been suspended, then we would need a motion to waive reading, if so desired.
Alder Pfeiffer will make a motion to waive the reading.
Alder Adams seconds.
Motion from Pfeiffer on, second from Adam to waive reading. Any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, reading has been waived, and then someone can make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Alder Adams makes a motion to adopt ordinance number 754-20.
Alder Pfeiffer will second that.
A motion from Adams and a second from Pfeiffer on to adopt ordinance 754-20, an ordinance to create section 102-367 of the City of Columbus Code of Ordinances concerning the replacement of lead service lines. Any discussion on the motion? If none, could we please take a roll call, Jane?
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan. Aye. Adams,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
McCabe. Aye. Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 6, consider and take action on the donation from American Packaging Corporation. This was, again, brought through the Committee of the Whole for discussion. Maybe kind of an inadvertent donation, but American Packaging had installed a flashing sign on their property, they thought, but it was in the public right-of-way, so now this item needs to be donated to the city since it's in the public right-of-way. Seems pretty straightforward. Any questions on this one? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the donation.
Reed motions to accept the donation of the crosswalk sign from American Packaging Corporation.
Alder Pfeiffer will second that.
Motion from Treed, second from Pfeiffer on. Trina Reed, sorry. To accept the donation from American Packaging Corporation. Is there any discussion on that? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 7, consider and take action on the change order for the pavilion painting contract. This was discussed at the Committee of the Whole. It looks like there is a change order form in the packet indicating the changes that were discussed, including accent colors of gray on windows and door trim and black on the upper and lower rafters of the veranda and some of the doors. The additional cost of $5,300 will be paid through donations through the HLPC. And the original price has been adjusted up to $55,050 for those changes. Is there any discussion or any questions on the change order? Trina?
Oh, I just wanted to comment that the pavilion painting is looking beautiful so far. Just wanted to extend thanks to the HLPC for doing good work.
Anyone else? Nothing further than take a motion to approve the change order for the pavilion painting contract.
Alder Gray moves to approve the change order for the pavilion painting contract.
Alder Pfeiffer will second that.
A motion from Gray, second from Pfeifferhorn to approve the change order for the pavilion painting contract. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Move on to item number 8, consider and take action on the address changes for the Scout Cabin, Rest Haven building in Fireman's Park. Kind of the project we've been doing this year is getting separate addresses for all the different buildings that are within Fireman's Park, starting with the Aquatic Center, which has already been completed, I believe, and now we're on to the Scout Cabin. 1049 is the address, 1049 Park Avenue is the address for the park itself. The proposal here is that the Scout Cabin have the address of 1049A, and the Rest Haven would become 1049B. Indicated here that the Wisconsin preservation specialist from the State Historic Society was contacted to make sure that the address change didn't have any impact on the historical character of the buildings. So once this is approved, I believe Pat Gable can do the rest of the work for us and have those addresses changed. Is there any question on this one? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the address changes.
Alder Pfeiffer makes a motion to approve the address changes for Fireman's Park, the Rest Haven, and the Scout Cabin.
Okay,
Alder
seconds.
second.
Motion from Pfeifferhorn in 2 seconds. Jane, I'll let you take a pick. That was Ian Gray, I believe. To approve the address changes for the Scout Cabin and the Rest Haven building in the Fireman's Park. Is there any discussion on that? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, item number 9, consider and take action on the RFP process for the statue. This was discussed at the last committee of the whole. I had to leave early, so I wasn't here for that discussion, but it sounds like everything pretty much went fairly straightforward. City Administrator Ellefson has kind of laid out some documentation here, just kind of outlining the process that would be used to find a receiver of the statue, the Christopher Columbus statue. There's a planned timeline on here. I have no concerns. I think it's very thorough and probably covers just about every scenario that we could imagine. And I don't know that we would use the full timeline, but I think this just gives some outline for administration to work within to find a receiver of the statue. So I believe we're just looking for some memorialization of the RFP so staff can begin to work on that. Any questions on the RFP? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the RFP process for the statue.
Alder Gray moves to approve the RFP process for the Christopher Columbus statue.
Alder Adams seconds.
Motion from Gray, second from Adams, to approve the RFP process for the Christopher Columbus statue. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. On to item 10, consider and take action on the recommendation from Plan Commission to approve conditional use permit for Gates Automotive Group at 250 Commercial Drive. This is the item that's also on the committee of the whole. Matt, thank you for jumping up. I think you can probably outline this much quicker. I know the Plan Commission had a lot of agenda items last Thursday, and this was one of them. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yep. So the conditional use permit was needed for the sale of outdoor vehicle, or outdoor storage and sales of vehicles at 250 Commerce Drive. Right now, the first part of the project would be basically finishing off the interior of the building. If you've ever been out by this building, the only part that's finished was the former Remax site. The rest of the building basically has a gravel floor in there for right now. So that's the first phase, and I think as the business grows over time, other projects are likely. So the Plan Commission approved a recommendation to this body or to council with 8 recommendations, and the 8 recommendations can be found in the staff report that was attached to your packet. If you want, I could read through them right now. First is the applicant shall restore and maintain landscaping for the property. This includes removing weeds for the property. If you've been out there, it's overgrown in a lot of areas. The applicant shall store all refuse in areas screened from the public. There's actually a dumpster enclosure in there already, but just, making that condition. Also, the applicant will store all vehicles with visible body damage at an off-site location where outdoor storage of vehicles under repair is permitted, being that they're selling cars, that if they're taking in cars that are kind of junked and don't look or in need of repair, they need to be transferred to another location. All future building improvements for this parcel will need plans as required under a conditional use. So if they go ahead and expand the parking lot, we need to see grading, lighting, landscaping plans for the new area that's being developed. So it's basically requiring the normal plans that we need for a conditional use if an expansion occurs. 5 is the conditional use permit shall remain in effect as long as the conditions upon which the permit was issued are followed. So basically, as long as he's following the other conditions, he's fine. This was one that Attorney Johnson recommended we include, as well as number 6, which is the conditional use permit will expire for the parcel number listed if not used for outdoor sales of motor vehicles for 365 consecutive days. So basically, if they go out of business and they are not selling cars there for a year, then the conditional use permit expires for this property. And if a new owner came in, they would have to get a brand new conditional use and go through this process. The applicant is required to notify the zoning administrator if there are substantial changes to the plan of operation. So under 114, 150, or actually I think it's 50, pardon me, of our code, we require a plan of operation for any new businesses. It details like hours and number of staff. I use the word substantial intentionally there because if they stay open till 7:30, if they change their hours to 7:30, I really don't need to be notified. But if they decide to be a 24-hour car lot, then we need to know. And the last one is the applicant is required to obtain a building, sign, and any other or all necessary permits to conduct business at this location. So those are the conditions that came from Plan Commission. Obviously, council can add any conditions they feel are necessary for an approval at the site. If there are there any questions, I guess, from me at this point? The applicant is here if you would like them to also come to the podium and say a little bit about their business.
Ian or Katie, did you have any questions on this? Signifying they don't. Anyone up here have any questions? I don't have any questions. I think that the recommendation from the Plan Commission is thorough with those 8 items. It's nice to see that someone's developing that property. It's been vacant for some time, so you're welcome to come up and introduce yourselves. It's nice to see this plan laid out.
Great, thanks. You guys can see this, but basically we're going to take the strip mall building, put in glass garage doors, and have an indoor showroom. What the concept is that I started Gates Collision Centers in 1990, actually not that far from here by the North Bristol Sportsman's Club. We grew that to 19 locations and sold that in 2018 to a publicly traded company. And so this is my next career, is to do this. So Bottom line, what that means for the city of Columbus is that we'll be a really well-funded, very professional operation. I went to UW-Madison here for business. The idea is for us to build a really strong reputation and to combine the best of the online virtual dealerships that are starting to move forward in this current pandemic with the on-site. So we market into all of Dane County and enabling people to view vehicles in a climate-controlled environment indoors, and then be able to test drive them from there. So that's the goal of what we're setting up here, and we're really intending to be a good corporate citizen and help you develop that great retail space that's out there.
Great. I like the photos of the build-out that we've got in our packet. It looks very nice. Any questions from the council on this? I see no questions. Oh, Trina, go ahead.
So looking at the plan, any cars in need of repair would not be on site, so it wouldn't be visible, and everything would look quite neat.
So on the recommendation from the committee, it was that if there's any visible body damage, so let's say we take a trade-in and the customers had damage that they didn't have repaired at a body shop, we have a location in Beaver Dam behind one of my former body shops that we've moved the vehicle to at that location. The vehicles that don't show body damage that maybe need mechanical repairs of some sort, as long as they're not unsightly, stored properly, then we're allowed to keep those on site. We will be operating a service repair center in the back of the building, and so that would be the way that we would handle that.
Thank you. This looks wonderful.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming out.
Best of luck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions, then we can, someone can make a motion to approve the recommendation from the Plan Commission, including the 8 items that were in the recommendation to approve the conditional use permit for Gates Automotive Group at 250 Commerce Drive.
Alder Adams moves to approve the Planning Commission staff recommendations for the site. I'm tripping up now. How should I word that?
You can just read the agenda item to approve the conditional use permit.
Alder Adams makes a motion to approve the conditional use permit.
Alder Pfeiffer will second that.
All right, just to clarify, we have a motion from Adams, a second from Pfeiffer on to approve the recommendation from the Plan Commission for conditional use permit for the Gates Automotive Group at 250 Commerce Drive. Any discussion on that? If there's no discussion, is a voice vote okay on that, Paul? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we've got another item from the Plan Commission, item number 11, consider and take action on the recommendation from the Plan Commission to approve a zoning map amendment for the City of Columbus parcel listed, which is owned by the city. Matt, you can kind of explain this?
So Dave Arnott from Rupert Milky gave me some plans for a generator located on the outlot over off of Warner Street, right next to the playground at Enterpack Park. And essentially it's a 9x15, I guess shed is for lack of a better term, that'll be built on that site. The issue is when I started looking at our zoning code, and it's currently, the property is currently, or as it sits today, is a zoned RD, which is rural development. It didn't meet the setbacks for that. And then it was like, well, there was a couple options we could have considered, but the cleanest way to approve this was to basically amend the zoning. And one of the recommendations was to change it to public zoning. We have that in our code. It's 11469 under our code. Unfortunately, there are no parcels really zoned public right now. I believe a few administrators ago, we got rid of the public zoning, but we never actually struck it from our zoning code itself. It's just there's nothing zoned on the official map. So I thought it was best, obviously the use fits the zoning. So I thought it was best or I recommended from the staff level to rezone it to P. which is a public, semi-public institutional zoning. So that was the recommendation after some discussion at council. That was the recommendation is to approve the zoning change from rural development to P, which is public, semi-public institutional district.
Does that make sense to everyone? This kind of runs in partner with the next item as well, correct?
Yes.
So both of these need to happen to.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Matt's here if there's any further questions on item number 11, but the recommendation from the Plan Commission is to approve a zoning map amendment for the City of Columbus parcel number 11211-1190.OL2.
Alder Pfeiffer will make a motion to approve a zoning map amendment for the City of Columbus for parcel number 11211-1190.OL2.
Alder Adams seconds.
A motion from Pfeiffer, a second from Adams to approve the zoning map amendment for the City of Columbus as recommended by the Plan Commission. Any discussion on the motion? See no further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to number 12 then, Matt.
Sure. So under section 114, 169 for the public district, setbacks are established through a conditional use process, but when you look at our code, technically the structure for a utility was actually a permitted use. So there was no formal guidance from our code on the bulk regulations of setbacks, building height, et cetera. So my recommendation to formally approve this and memorialize this was to basically take the site plan that was given to us from Dave or not at Rupert Milgie and just approve the site plan. So, you know, we're basically granting ourselves approval to build within the envelope that is shown on the site plan.
Makes sense to me. It's nice that we're kind of applying our own rules to ourselves, I guess. We could do this much easier by ignoring it, but I appreciate the fact that we are applying our rules to ourselves. So any questions for Matt on that part of it? I see no questions from the council, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation from the Plan Commission to approve the site plan for parcel number 11211-1190.OL2.
Alder Adams moves to approve the recommendation of the Plan Commission for the site plan for parcel 11211-1190.OL2.
Alder Pfeiffer will make the second.
All right, we have a motion from Adams, a second from Pfeiffer to approve the recommendation from the Plan Commission for the site plan for the parcel number that's been read. Is there any further discussion or questions on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Matt. I know you had a really busy evening last Thursday. The Plan Commission was very busy, but that's also a good sign for the city, I think. There's a lot of stuff going on, so thank you. All right, we'll move on to item number 13 then. Consider and take action on claims in the amount of $224,093.79. Any questions on the city claims as they've been submitted? I see no questions. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the city claims in the amount read.
Alder Pfeiffer will make a motion to approve the monthly claims through August 11th, 2020 in the amounts read.
Alder Adams seconds.
Motion from Pfeiffer, second from Adams to approve the city claims in the amount of $224.93.79. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, could we please take a roll call? Jane?
Bryan? Aye. Adams?
Aye.
Gray?
Aye.
McCabe?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
And Pfeiffer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the report of city officers. I'll turn it over to Administrator Ellison so I can catch my breath.
Thank you. Just a couple things this evening.
as we continue to get the numbers from the state, as we kind of head into budget season, the preliminary population estimates are out, and our population as of January 1st, 2020 is 5,187, which is up 14 people from last year. On an interesting note, I guess, they compare the numbers in that in those demographic results from the state compared to the 2010 census. And since 2010, Columbus has added the greatest number of people among all communities throughout Columbia County. And if you look at the rate of growth, we're second in the entire county. So those are both very good statistics and are, have really kind of helped drive the growth. If we can continue that and continue some residential growth and commercial growth, those are all really good things for the city. Hibbert Street continues. More than a third of the sewer main had been installed as the end of last week. Water main installation has started. I believe they have 2 crews really kind of working full speed now. A couple small hiccups here and there with some laterals and finding the services. We've been able to work through most of them. There's a few that might result in small change orders, but in the grand scheme of things, it's going very well so far. And we'll have our first on-site weekly project meeting tomorrow, where kind of all staff and engineering staff and the contractor kind of actually get together on-site and see what's going on and address any concerns. So hopefully that the trend continues out there. The police department also had their facade project that has been kind of dragged for a couple of years as we look for the right solution. I believe it's mostly wrapped up now. And so if you had seen it before where there was some crumbling facade on the front of the police department wall, that project is wrapping up and it's looking very nice right now. So that's encouraging. Also, we talked, I think, about the administrative assistant for the DPW, that we just closed the application period for that. And I wanted to give an update because it was sort of a remarkable result. During our application period, we received 113 applications. I don't know the last time I've seen anything even remotely like that. This is a great problem to have because now we weren't prepared for something that large, but it's an incredible response. And so I think it's encouraging that we'll find a really highly qualified and motivated individual. Zach has a lot of sorting to do. Budget progress also continues. On Thursday of this week, all the department heads are supposed to have their preliminary budgets delivered to me so that we can start compiling that into the document that you'll see next month. And after we get it all into one document, then we can start meeting with the departments and sort of understanding globally where we're at as we lead up to presenting something to the council. So that's good. Lots of work to go yet, but the preliminary things that I've seen are encouraging. And just a quick reminder as well, on September 8th, it'd be the second Tuesday in September, we proposed a special meeting date to go over the Roadmap 2050 information and also potentially to receive a presentation from the auditors. I've heard from some of you, but not all of you, so if you do have September 8th available for a meeting, please remember to let me know. And that's all I had.
All right, you've only got a few minutes left, but today the Columbus Discovery Charter School is having another produce giveaway from 5:30 to 7:30 this evening on the corner of Fuller Street and Selden Street here in Columbus. Today they have beans, the last of the sweet corn, dill, parsley, basil, cucumbers, kale, Swiss chard, zucchini, carrots, tomatoes, broccoli, leeks, and red cabbage they're giving away. Feel free to bring your own bag. The produce is free. In-kind donations are gladly accepted and can be placed in the black metal box that's attached to the back of the DCS sign. I just wanted to say thanks to the DCS staff and their governance council for sharing this year's crop with the community. I think you may have been aware at the beginning of the growing season they gave away a whole bunch of seedlings to the community, and they've done several of these produce giveaways to give the produce back to the community. So it's a very kind gesture. Speaking of school, the Columbus area students will begin their school year on September 1st. School district administration has been sharing information with parents throughout this summer. Students and parents have flexibility of both in-person and remote learning options, or a blend of both, to help maintain a safe environment for students and staff as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. As a parent of 2 Columbus students, I want to thank the district administration and staff for offering flexibilities to families and students, and I hope that we can all employ patience, understanding, and good communication to ensure a great learning environment for students this school year. Another reminder to enter the Name the New Street Sweeper contest. Contest runs through August 24th, 3 p.m. deadline. The entries must be submitted via email to the Columbus DPW. That link is on the city website and has been shared on city social media pages as well. Names will be judged on creativity, relevancy to public works, and memorability, and then the winner will be announced at the September 1st City Council meeting and will receive a ride in the newly named street sweeper plus a $50 gift card to a local Columbus Chamber business of choice. Thank you, DPW, for doing that. Have you gotten 113 entries there yet? Okay. Wow, more job applications than contest entries. That is so strange. Also, this past Sunday, August 16th, was the last day of operation for the CAAC season. I just wanted to thank Amy, Joe, our rec director, Kane Brauskowski, the pool manager, and the CAAC staff for their efforts this year navigating many unique challenges and for providing an abbreviated but very safe pool season for us all. Thank you. And lastly, City Clerk Pat Gable, she provided me with a brief summary of the turnout at the election last Tuesday, August 11th. We had a total ballots of 808 cast for the election, 498 of which were absentee ballots. Total in-person ballots were 310. There are currently 3,173 registered voters in Columbus, so the turnout was 25.46%, which is pretty good for a primary that didn't have a lot of contested elections on there. The percentage of absentee voters was 61.63. So again, this was a partisan primary with few contested races, but the absentee voting percentages are encouraging as we move to the fall presidential election, which will likely have a very large turnout. So we encourage voters to utilize the absentee ballots either in person or by mail for the November election when those options become available. That's all I had. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Alder Pfeiffer will make a motion to adjourn.
Alder Adams seconds.
A motion from Pfeiffer, second by Adams, to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll be adjourned for just a few minutes. We're going to return with the committee of the whole, and just so you're aware, I will be chairing the meeting for Council President Katie Ryan today, since she's participating via Zoom, because it's very difficult to chair a meeting remotely. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank you. All right, good evening. It's 7:23. I'm Mayor Tome here to call to order this meeting of the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, August 18th. I'm filling in for Katie tonight, who is participating remotely via Zoom, and it's going to be a little bit easier for me just to chair the meeting while I'm here at the council chambers. So again, we're utilizing Zoom video conferencing as we have since mid-March. We have Council President Katie Ryan and also Alder Ian Gray participating from home. The rest of the council members are here at City Hall chambers. With that, we also have Jane Foodie with us this evening, helping out Pat, who's on vacation. If you're ready to take roll call for us, Jane?
Adams.
Present.
Gray.
Here.
McCabe.
Here.
Pyfron.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Ryan. And Tome.
Here. Thank you. Katie and Ian, can you hear us all right this evening?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. All right, this meeting has been noticed in accordance with state statutes and local ordinances. Next item is to approve the agenda for the evening. We have a fairly short agenda, but would appreciate if you could grant some flexibility to me to move agenda items around if necessary. There's one kind of the stormwater utilities discussion. We can kind of move around a little bit to get Matt and maybe some other people out of here a little bit earlier, if that's okay with you. Anyone opposed to that? All right, with that, entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Alder Pyfron makes a motion to approve the agenda.
Alder Adams seconds.
We have a motion from Pyfron, second from Adams to approve the agenda and to offer the chair some flexibility on the order of the items. Is there any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Agenda is approved. Citizen comments. Again, we didn't have anyone signed up this evening in person, and the city administrators indicated that no one contacted him before the time listed on the agenda to participate via Zoom. So we have no citizen comments this evening. We'll move on to item number 5, which is department reports. We have the police report, the DPW report, and the fire report for July. Any comments or questions on the reports that are in your packet? I see none. Thank you for the reports. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Pete.
No, this is just something to keep an eye on. I think in the last report, there, for the
Fire department?
police report,
Oh, police report?
for the police report,
Okay.
I think in the last one, there were 3 overdoses that Narcan had to be used, if I remember correctly. I'm seeing a double overdose as well. Just something to keep an eye on to see if this becomes an ongoing trend. And that's, yeah, it just seems, I know we're a small community, but I'd really like to nip this in the bud if we could, if it's possible. But just something to keep an eye on.
Thanks for pointing that out, Pete. Any other comments on the reports? See none, so we'll move on to number 6, which is review and discuss the bids for the wastewater treatment plant influent pump replacement. We've got city engineer Jason Letha here this evening to go over this with us. Hi, Jason.
Hello again. So what we have before you tonight is a project that's been on the capital plan for a little while now. It is a replacement of the influent pumps. I think we talked about a little bit about this earlier. A couple years ago, we replaced several of the pumps there, but there's still a couple pumps left, and so we're replacing the 2 remaining pumps with a single large pump. We do have the redundancy that were required because we did replace those other pumps in kind previously. So at this point, we put together plans and specifications. We've moved forward with getting approval on design and bidding the project. We opened bids on August 11th. We had 4 bids ranging from low August Winter and Sons at $197,900 all the way to Lee Plumbing, which is the highest bidder at $251,902. If you take a look at one of the attachments, I believe that's in the packet, you can see that we did list the engineer's estimate at $220,000. So the top 3 contractors are very reputable. They've all done work at the plant before, and we're all very comfortable with using them. As you noted in one of the early change orders, Staub Construction's already doing work at the plant, but certainly they didn't come in as low bidder. So we were pleased with the results, coming in about 10% lower than we had estimated them to be. And we do know that August Winter, like I say, is very qualified to do that type of work. So at this point, I'll just open it up for any questions, if anybody has any, based on our recommendation to move forward with these bids and the award for the next meeting.
You mentioned the amount of $220,000, that's not in here. You said that may have been the engineer's estimate. I'm assuming this is a budgeted project through the capital plan for the wastewater treatment plant?
Yes, it is.
Do you know what the estimate was for that in the?
In the capital plan?
Yeah,
I'd have to go back and look, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm guessing it was the 220,000, because usually we take that estimate and roll it forward. Sometimes we will change it with the final design, but at this point, I think that's what the line item was, so.
okay, it's just my
But
assumption as well.
I can confirm before the next meeting if you guys
Okay.
want a confirmation.
Not a big deal, just thought I'd ask. The other question I had is, let's see, the removal of 3 influent pumps and the installation of 1 of increased capacity. Does that mean that this 1 pump is replacing 3 existing pumps? Or controls include
John's
variable
on-
frequency drives?
I believe there was 2 pumps being replaced with this one, and a couple of the previous pumps were replaced in kind. So I think there was 2 previously replaced with 2 pumps, and then there was 2 more, and I think they're being replaced by 1. So we still have redundancy, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, John, if you're there, maybe you can weigh in if I'm speaking correctly.
That's right, Jason, there's actually 3 pumps that are being removed, but the new one that's being installed has the capacity to, there'll be some larger piping and it has the capacity of those 3 pumps and much more reliability. Those pumps are approaching 40 years old and have been a problem for some time, so we gain reliability and capacity.
Excellent. And probably more efficient. I see it's a variable frequency drive, which I'm assuming wasn't technology 40 years ago, so
That's correct.
okay, good. All good news. All right, any other questions for Jason or John? I see none. Is the council prepared to move this forward to the next regular meeting for approval? All right, everyone signifying yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
We'll move on to, let's see. That was your only item for right now. You got a few later maybe, or no? Are you taking off? Okay, all right. Okay. Thank you, Jason. We'll move on to item number 7, which is going to be Amy Joe is going to be here to help us discuss the trick or treat date. In the packet, we've got it laid out here. The last year, the trick or treat hours were on Saturday, October 26th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. This year, the last Saturday in October is October 31st. And the last Sunday will fall on October 25th. In the past, the city has implemented safety measures such as no parking zones in congested trick-or-treat areas. Once the consensus regarding trick-or-treating is known, staff will bring safety recommendation to the next committee of the whole for consideration. I guess it's safe to say, just with the uncertainty of COVID-19, I don't think we can prevent trick or treat from happening in our community. It's something that, individual people can decide whether they want to participate or not. It's just us establishing the hours that it's going to be permitted, I guess, so we can have things set up for traffic controls and other things like that. Any questions or thoughts right off the bat here? Was there a recommendation for the date? I believe it says here the last Saturday in October is October 31st, which is Halloween, so it seems to make sense to do it on that Saturday.
Can I make a recommendation?
Please come up, yep.
Okay.
I was just
sorry.
wanted to chime in to say that I think we should have it on Halloween if it falls on a Saturday. Just to kind of keep it consistent, either a Saturday before, or if it happens to be on a Saturday, October 31st happens to be on a Saturday, then hold it on
I agree with you, Katie. I also would like to see it on Halloween. That's just me. But I would, just my personal opinion, I think 8 o'clock is a little late. In October, last couple of years, it was really dark. So maybe we could, since it is on Saturday, we could go from 4 to 7. Just a thought, throw it out there.
Okay.
I would agree with Amy's recommendation. I think especially with what's going on, as it gets darker, it gets harder to socially distance. People can bump into each other and things. I think keeping it in daylight hours would be the best idea.
All right, so it seems like we've got some consensus that it would be on the 31st on Halloween. I don't see any objection to that from anyone. What about the hours of adjusting them to like 4 to 7 p.m.? How do people feel about that?
Well, I concur. I think that's a solid idea. Just, yeah, that's all I got.
Trina?
Yeah, most years I would want to have it available during darkness, but since we have so much going on pandemic-wise, I'd prefer a little earlier.
Okay. Paul or Mike, do you have any opinion? You okay with 4 to 7? Well, that almost seemed too easy. All right, I think we've got consensus then that we will have trick-or-treating in Columbus on October 31st from 4 to 7 p.m. I think there's obviously going to be other conversations outside of establishing the time, whether if people want to participate or not. Obviously in years past, I think it's been a tradition that you put your porch light on and I have candy, and maybe we just kind of need to express that again this year. So, all right, we will need to move that forward to the next regular meeting to memorialize the time and the hours. So we will have that on the next regular agenda. Thanks, Amy. Joe? Ian, go ahead.
I know that it's saying that the staff will bring recommendations to the next meeting. Amy, Joe, did you have any safety recommendations for this year aside from the time change?
Just reading through some literature, what other park and rec communities are doing. Basically, since most of the candy is prepackaged anyway, that people are suggesting they leave it out on the porch and kids can grab the candy, or if the parents have hand sanitizer and just hand it out. I think the main concern for me personally, and because of trick-or-treating the last couple of years, was the darkness. That's always around 7:30. It slows down anyway. But otherwise, I think we should just, it's a good community thing. I think people look forward to it. I will post some things out on my Facebook page and on the city webpage to follow some guidelines. Hopefully they take those recommendations.
All right, we look forward to follow-up from staff on recommendations. Thanks, Amy Jo. All right, we'll move that forward to the next regular meeting then and wait to hear some for more input from staff on guidelines and recommendations between now and then. Obviously, things are always constantly in flux with COVID, and we have to be prepared to be nimble with all this stuff. So, all right, we'll move on to item number 8, which is review and discuss options for leak detection at the Aquatic Center. Let's see here. I think I'll just do you mind, Amy Jo? Or okay. We've got some information in our packet here about some choices, I guess, and the budgets where the funding would come for these
Correct.
leak detection services.
So if you're aware or not aware, last year we did find the main source of the large leak that was at the Aquatic Center, and that was the blue water attraction that is in the zero depth area. And what we did is we closed that pipe off all season long. And we noticed that there is still some water loss, about 20 to 30,000 gallons a day, which has been what we've been running for like the last 3 to 4 years. Since we're doing all of this leak detection, we thought now is the time to kind of focus and see if we can pinpoint that area. And talking with Newman Pools, there's a couple of different things that we can explore, and what that is actually cutting into the gutter system, which is a stainless steel, and run a camera down all 4 sides to see if we can find anything. And then they said they had a couple other things up their sleeve too. So Mid-America is coming to the Aquatic Center mid-September, and they're resurfacing the entire facility. And that includes the expansion joints and the caulk lines from the work that they did in 2017, because I'm not happy with it. So they're coming back to redo it. And I think that that is a contributing factor to the water that we are losing, but I don't think it's everything that we're losing. So we'd like to explore that option with Newman to come in and see if they can find some other areas. That's the gist of it.
Trina, go ahead.
Oh, what is the water feature under the possibility of abandon the water feature suggested by Newman Pools?
So Newman provided us 2 quotes, and that's why I thought it's best to break it out. So the first one that we're talking about here is continued leak detection besides from the blue attraction, and then they'll explore the other areas of the pool. So the other thing that we'll be talking about tonight is the blue water feature, what we want to do with that, whether it's abandoning it or fixing it. It's confusing. So the valve that runs the water to that blue water feature is shut off, so there's no water spraying. So when we shut that off, when we ran the pool in full operation, we noticed that the 80,000 gallons we were losing on top of the 30 went away. So we were losing about 80 to 90,000 last year. We went through, remember, like 3 million gallons of water. So that was the source. We found it. So that was off all year, which it helped with COVID. We were able to close that attraction off. So that's another conversation that'll be next. So this is an area to explore. Like I said, the last 3 to 4 years we've had that leak. It's just never been addressed. I just think it might be a good opportunity to maybe see what we can do to try to fix it.
So we found the major, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
You're fine.
So we found the major source was the blue water
Arch.
feature.
Correct.
However, you're still short or losing like 30-ish.
20 to 30.
20 to 30.
It depends on the day. A typical pool our size would lose from 5 to 10,000, and that's due to water evaporation, which is typically 4 to 5,000 with the size of pool that we have, and then bather load. On a really hot day and a full capacity, you're going to lose another 3 to 4,000.
Okay, so this is
So-
like way over and above. So there
Right.
are some
So a
other leaks in
typical
there
day
somewhere.
would be 5 to 10. We're at about 20 to 30.
Okay.
We were hoping that we were going to remediate all these issues last fall, and we didn't get them done by winter. So trying to get things accomplished in the spring is difficult because you don't know what type of weather you're going to have. So I think with the pool closing a couple weeks earlier, this is an opportunity to hopefully address any remaining leaks there, have them repaired, and then have the pool. I guess the surface would be patched in when
I
Mid-America
do think
comes
the
out.
expansion joints and caulk lines would be a significant help to it,
Yeah.
but will it take care of everything? I can't tell you on that, but
Yeah.
it's going to be a big difference.
So the main question is, do we go with Newman and see if explore those other pipes with the camera to see if there are other leaks somewhere? Is that kind of the gist?
They did pressure test in the fall, and then, of course, the last thing that we tested was this water attraction, and that's when we found that and closed it off. And
Okay.
like I said, we were able to operate well this summer. But they said there are other things that they can do, and I guess we'd like to. Somebody's calling.
I think it would be worth it, while we got the time and while it's sitting in our lap, to see if there's any other leaks in there, get it taken care of now, and then over time, save the water.
Yeah.
That's my own 2 cents.
Alder Ryan has her finger up, or she's raising her hand politely. I think she's got a comment. Go ahead, Katie.
Hi, hey, Bill, I'm just wondering, like, so you say you're using 30,000 gallons of water a day. You also stated that, just from normal evaporation and also like people getting in and out of the pool and maybe a busier day or a hotter day, that amounts to, you said about 10,000 gallons a day?
Yeah,
on
about
average?
5 to 10,000.
5 to 10,000. So I guess my question is it possible that when they come back to do the expansion joints and things like that, that might remedy
It might.
it? I guess I'm wondering, should we commit to doing something else before we get that addressed?
I am along the same line with you. I thought about that as well. Do we have the expansion joints and caulk joints replaced, fill it up next year and run it and see where we're at? but, yeah, it's a touch and go. It's hard to say. That would be a smart thing to do.
We've been dealing with this now for so long, or just like a combination of different things. So I understand, like, we want the pool to be like fully functional and, you know, not losing water and wasting money and revenue. So, yeah, I guess I wonder if that's the expansion joints are a larger problem. No.
I wondered the same thing. It's hard to say. It really is. If that would be the source of the problem and it's fixed, that's fantastic. If it's not, and then next year we start up again, maybe we're a little bit less. So, looking for some direction on what is the best thing to do, I guess.
I wanted to say something. Typically with, to use an analogy of like a mechanic, typically you should start with like the cheapest, easiest solution first and see if that works. I don't know if that council would agree with me, but yeah.
It's like we're working backwards. A little bit.
Shooting.
All right, Ian, go ahead.
And I would second what Katie is saying. Like, if the expansion joints haven't been fully fixed and we're not losing that much more water than what's normal, it could very likely be that that's just the issue, and once they're fixed, everything is fine. I think committing to spending an extra, $6,000?
Yeah.
When we don't know if there is going to be additional problems, I don't think that's prudent.
I would agree.
I guess I'm a little confused by the proposal from Newman because it's actually covering 2 agenda items, so I'm trying to stay focused on this. I don't know how they came up with an estimate of $5,900 for leak detection services on the pool. How do you base that? Do they have a list of the number of pipes or the number of things they're going to have to test?
Well, ironically, it
'Cause
is
it's
the same
kinda-
amount that they had quoted us last time, and it's based off of time and material.
Okay.
And Zach did request we work together and get a breakdown of that. So I believe it is a time and material work to be performed on a time and material basis. So are they going to work every single minute to get to that 5,900?
Well, there shouldn't be much material because they're pressure testing, so it's their tools and their time. If they were going over every inch of every pipe and every drain for $5,900, I think this would be a very good investment. But it seems like that we have pressure tested some of the things. We found some sources. Yep. Obviously, the leaking water feature is a different issue that we'll talk about right after this, but that is losing a significant amount of water when it's turned on, so we have to make that decision. The expansion joints probably do need to be replaced, but again, they're only 3 years old, and so this is under warranty, hopefully, and we can have that covered. My concern is not taking the opportunity when we have budgeted money to make sure everything is tested when the weather is good and we're not dealing with a midwinter situation. I don't want to have the expansion joints and the resurfacing done, and then we fill up the pool next year and go, oh, well, we're losing 30,000 gallons a day when we didn't spend $6,000 right now. We're going to spend $6,000 on our water bill in a couple of months next year. So I think it's actually good insurance to make sure that we're testing all that stuff right now. I just don't feel like we got all the way through everything we wanted to last year. The water feature thing was kind of brought up at the last minute, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of the last things that we found. It was the last thing that we found.
Yeah. I think the other thing to consider too is that there's pressure lines, and then there's the gutters, which isn't pressure, and there's gravity lines, and all of those things need to be pressure tested to make sure, that they're not leaking anything. You may not notice a leak until you activate the pump system and start pushing water through it, where if it's sitting in the pool idly right now and you turn everything off, it's not leaking anything because the leak is through a pressure line, or the gutters don't require any pressure. They could be leaking as well. So I feel like $5,900 may be an overestimate, may be super conservative to make sure we've got everything covered there. But if the money is budgeted, I would rather spend it now than spend it on a water bill next year. And I just feel like the age of the pool, the last couple of years have just been, here's some more surprises, here's some more surprises, here's some more
I
surprises.
want the surprises to end.
Yeah.
I'm trying to have that help.
Go ahead, Katie, sorry.
I mean, I understand that, and I would be okay with that as long as we got like an actual breakdown. I think you bring up a good point, because when we had this pool pressure tested last year, we didn't get much more information. I guess I kind of assumed they were going to pressure test like the entire pool to find everything, and clearly they didn't. So if we're going to commit to that again, I would really like to understand the breakdown of what is going to be tested and what isn't.
I can provide that. the
I
next meeting.
completely agree with you, Katie. I think that's a good point to make. If there's a checklist that shows we tested this pipe from this point to this pipe and it held this much pressure for this long, we know that's not a problem anymore. But then we have something for our records to show we don't need to go back and pressure test that line,
Sure.
next year. That's probably not the culprit. But I feel like we've kind of just been chasing this in circles the last couple of years, and we really don't have anything to show for it other than let's look further. I don't know every pipe that's been tested, but I like that approach a lot. Trina, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just had a question, seeming like the different companies are offering different services. Like for the Musson Brothers, they would slip line any cracked pipes instead of doing concrete demolition and repairing concrete and rebar.
Yep, I think, are we gonna combine the two,
That's
or
the
that's the
next
next
Okay,
item?
that's-
Sorry.
Sorry,
No,
getting ahead.
I'm ready for you.
So I guess if, just to get through this one, is the council okay with the 15, well, I would say not to exceed $5,900. If we get to that point and we've got something tangible from Newman to show which pipes they've tested.
And what's to be tested.
And what's to be tested, and that they don't exceed $5,900 on this contract, that should get us some information, because there's money in the budget to do it this year. So, I mean, do we have consensus of that I think, Amy Jo, you would
I'd be
basically
happy
have
to
to
get that ready for you.
present something to them to say, we want a comprehensive list of what you're testing, because it's time and material, that should be expected anyway.
Yes.
All right,
And just
Katie?
adding to that, maybe, what they've already tested, and then what they're planning on testing.
I'll get a list for you. It'll be easy enough.
Okay. I think if we could have that, along with the contract that we need to approve in 2 weeks, that would just be good if they're both together, just so we
Sure.
know what the expectations are. Is the council okay with that? Can we move that forward to the next regular meeting? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Then we can move on to the other half of this, which is item number 8, which is the option for the water attraction repair, which I think is the list that you were looking at, Trina, with kind of the different contractors and choices there. As Amy Jo described, I think they figured out maybe at the very end of last year that feature pipe was cracked, where it kind of comes up.
Yep, the
Vertical.
vertical part of the pipe up to the elbow, it had about a 14-inch crack, which was pretty wide, and that's where all the water was going to the under drain system. So as I stated earlier, we closed that valve off, so no water was going to the attraction, which saved us the water loss. So now we need to decide if we want to abandon that and have it removed totally, and then when Mid-America comes in, they can just make it look like it never was there when they redo the shell of the pool, or we can look at the option of repairing them, and there's a couple different options from different contractors on how to do that, or the best way to do it. My personal opinion, from Houston Brothers, is less invasive, and that is slip lining. That's what you were starting to talk about. Did you have a question on that, Trina?
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of wondering how strong a repair of that is, and what would be the city's responsibility for patching if they're just putting a liner in?
Okay, so I met with them out at the pool, and they provided the quote to Kane. They actually came from a recommendation from John Namer at the wastewater treatment plant, because that's how they repair a lot of their pipes. We have the PVC pipes, or the PVC? Yes.
Yeah.
And they would actually slip line it. They actually blow a line in there, which is a fiberglass, and then they heat it, and it seals to the existing pipe. they had said that there may be some fine line cracking around the water feature in the zero depth area, and that's a responsibility that we would fix, but Mid-America would actually be fixing that when they came in to resurface the pool. So it would not require the concrete to be broken up prior to it, and it also would not require a large area to be fixed. We could go the other routes and fix that vertical pipe, but I'm concerned that if we just go just to the elbow, are there more cracks along the horizontal part, which would mean busting that whole area up back to the pit. And Zach brought up a good point. He said there's a lot of valves and things in there, and you're you're under the gutter system. It's the sidewalk. It's just it could be pretty messy, but.
That's my main concern too, is it seems like everyone is trying to separate themselves from the liability of opening up the pool shell or replacing it, because
Not having any
if you
plans.
don't know exactly where every pipe is, you're going in, you're doing brain surgery kind of, and if you bust another pipe, you're gonna have to fix it. So I'd like to learn more about that. Go ahead, Katie, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just had a question, Amy Jo. I did go to the pool, last week, and I was curious about, 'cause with the attractions, there's the valves that kids, they can turn on and off themselves. And I noticed that they were, covered. Is that having to do with that one blue feature being turned off?
That has to do with COVID, just so that we didn't have kids touching the bag. But that's what, it was very helpful this year. People didn't ask about it.
Okay.
Yep. Good question. All of them were like that. There's a little valve on there. You can make it go out slower or faster.
I know very little about the slip lining. I know someone that had it done on their private sewer, or their portion of the sewer, to prevent having to dig up the ground, and it's kind of a trade-off. It's a little more expensive, but it's less invasive, which I think is why people like it. I guess my only concern is, I don't know enough about it, but usually it's done on a clay pipe or a metal pipe, and we're putting this in a small, 2-inch PVC
4
pipe?
inch.
4 inch? That's what's supplying the water feature? Okay.
It's a 4-inch pipe.
Okay.
He did say that it sustains water temperatures up to 200 degrees.
And the chemicals, there's
And
no...
the chemicals were fine.
Okay.
He looked at our water chemistry that we had. We provided him some data sheets, and he said it would work perfectly.
And they can do the entirety of the pipe from end to end with the slip
Correct.
lining then?
65 feet.
Okay. Is there a warranty? Did they give you a year on it, or?
That's one thing I don't know, and I will find out an answer for you. Actually, reading through my stuff today, I didn't see anything on there about a warranty. I know I had to go to another meeting, and he stayed and talked with Kane a little bit more than I did, so I'm sure he's got that information, but I'll touch base with them. Yeah, there's a lot of options.
Well, and I think we generally have one quote in here for slip lining, and that's it, but I do believe there's probably more contractors that do that type of slip lining.
There
I
are.
think maybe not for a PVC. I'm not really sure, but maybe we could, we probably don't have
John
time
did
to.
give me 3,
He did,
and the
okay.
other 2 only did 10-inch and larger.
Oh, okay.
This was the only company. Maybe there's more. I could
Okay.
get some more quotes.
Yeah, I like the thought of that because it's less invasive, and I think that we could be creating more work for ourselves, chopping into that pool. And if a contractor's not willing to take that liability, I think there's a reason for that, and a reason we shouldn't force DPW workers to go down there and, without X-ray vision,
It's hard to know.
we could be significantly increasing the cost of this project. That's just my assumption, though. Paul, go ahead.
I guess my question is, currently, what is the interior diameter of that 4-inch pipe? I mean, is that interior dimension, the 4 inches, or is that outside dimension? And when you put the slip liner in, how much further does it reduce the diameter, and does that have any implications on the?
I believe it's a 4-inch outer diameter pipe,
Okay.
and I believe it's pretty minuscule. It made it sound like it's a really thin sheath of fiberglass that goes on there that's heated, so I don't imagine it to be, I don't have all the specifics on it.
I heard the fiberglass portion, I'm sorry to interrupt, and I just, in my mind's eye, I guess I was thinking it wasn't as minuscule, but, I thought it had some thickness to it, albeit a 1/4 inch or whatever, and now that's now a 3.5 inch pipe diameter, and does that have any implications on the the drainage.
That's a good question. I can also get information on that as well. I'll bring that. Yeah, will it pump as much water through that attraction? That's a good question.
Which
You know, if it makes
attraction
it
is
small.
it? Is
The
it
blue arched one?
The blue arched one. So I mean, gallons per minute, if it was affected whatsoever, it's going to spray a little less water. My assumption is if you go from a 4-inch to a 3.5-inch, the water may not go as high or something like that, but
It might go higher because, more pressure, but
yeah, so. But it's not like it's, feeding a slide or something like that where you have to have gallons per minute exceed this or that. I suppose you could probably cut the water in half and it would be less fun for kids, but nothing that would be illegal or inappropriate. Katie, go ahead, sorry.
I'm definitely for trying out the slip coating, but I was just curious, I mean, and maybe John could even answer this, John isn't here anymore, but, just what is the life of coating like that, and what type of maintenance, I mean, would they be able to do it again in 10 years, in 5 years, or whatever the case may be? Like, what is the maintenance on something like that?
I was told it's pretty low maintenance, that once it's done, it's considered a repair pipe, but I don't know as far as warranty, and I'll find that out. Is it, with our water chemistry, is it gonna be a 25-year fix? I know that John said that some pipes are fixed for 40, 50 years. So, I will find that out. I'm assuming it's a long fix.
I think the liner's probably gonna have more integrity than the PVC pipe itself. That's just my assumption, but I know when they use them for wastewater lines, the intent is to stretch out the life of that pipe, for another 20, 30, 40 years, and that's handling raw sewage underneath a street. This is a PVC pipe in a pool, which I think is they can probably get better adhesion and have more control over the environment, I guess, to install that.
Yeah,
That's
we
just
would
my
have
assumption.
controlled water chemistry, which would be, I think, a factor.
Sure. Well, do we have some consensus to move forward looking at the slip lining? See what we can get together,
I'll get some more facts gathered for you.
and try to, if we can have that ready for the next regular meeting. I know we want to kind of keep this stuff on track so you can get Mid-America back in, and
Yes,
you
please.
kind of want them to be the final contractor out there this fall. All right, sounds good.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy
Thank
Jo.
you, everybody.
thank you.
All right, we have consensus that'll be on the next regular agenda. We'll move on to number 10, review and discuss potential CDBG close projects. We've got Matt, our Planning and Economic Development Director, here to begin the conversation.
Sure, so as some of, actually I've been looking at, probably Trina and Michael were probably here when we went through this exercise back in June of 2018. So there was, the CDBG close was a program that was administered through the Wisconsin Department of Administration, where they basically asked all the recipients of the CDBG RLF program throughout the state basically turn over their assets as part of the closed program. And the benefit was you basically, whatever you turned over was held for you in a non-competitive grant. So now we're at the portion of this project where we need to identify a project for the non-competitive grant. One of the, I guess, I don't say downfalls, but one of the things that we still need to meet is we still need to meet a national objective for the CDBG program. We can't just do whatever we want with this money. So after a lot of discussion at the DT, trying to come up with a few good viable projects that would really have a positive impact on our community. The one item that we kind of kept always coming back to was the doing some sort of stormwater project to help mitigate flooding in the community. We thought that with this type of project, we'd kind of get the most bang for the buck, if you will, that the $423,000 and change that we have in this non-competitive grant would be maximized if we used it for a stormwater project. So with that, Jason and Zach, I know, met in between DT meetings, I don't know, probably early August or late July. And we have they developed 3 projects that we could potentially apply for. So the one thing to keep in mind is, there's 2 elements. You know, you're going to have a project area, but you're also going to have the area that benefits. So the area that benefits, we would have to go out and do an LMI survey yet to verify that the folks that are going to be benefiting from the project meet the LMI requirements through the CDBG program. So the three projects we have, we think there's a likelihood that the LMI will be met, but we still have to go out and do the survey. But tonight, I guess I want to get direction from council on, do you like these projects? Should I go back to the drawing board? But at least with these projects, we have real numbers, cost estimates. The one thing to also throw out there is that, so we can do more than one project. But if you mix and match the numbers, obviously they don't equal to 423, 476, 54. So either we're going to go, over on a project and have to have a local share for it, or we will have to, either do something different, and maybe we can always substitute for a different, or look at or consider doing a different project. I mean, one of the things that we talked about initially was maybe a street project, just because with the CDBG rules, like a street project or seemed like the low-hanging, easy way to go. I know we considered a lot of different options, but, with the CDBG rules, it just, some of the options seem more complex than others. So this is kind of where we're at, and I guess I'm here for questions and discussion.
With the area of benefit for each project, so since this is stormwater, I don't know exactly what that means, but I assume that you can kind of, any contributing basin that's going into that stormwater, you can kind of include into that circle you need to draw for the LMI requirements?
Yeah. So for, let's say the Second Ward Creek dredging project, we would use the area basically between James Street and probably all the way down to Farnham if we wanted, and say that's the area that we're looking to alleviate flooding. But we could be doing dredging much further upstream from that, and that would be the project area, because you're going from the dam all the way up to basically the hospital. That's the entire project area, but the area of benefit is basically from James, that stretch.
Okay.
So you'd have, essentially we'd have a map that has 2 defined areas, one where the project's occurring, and as I said, the area that we're trying to alleviate.
Sure. I like the project for that reason, because I think sometimes the LMI portion of things is hard to navigate in reality, but I think with stormwater projects, it's probably a good way to spend the money. Anyone else on this? Oh, go ahead, Trina.
Let's see. While I like the project and there's definitely a desperate need for stormwater improvements, and I'm very happy to see a possibility of funds appearing, I really thought the CDBG program was more for economic development, and I'm wondering how likely this is to be approved.
So there were, under the closed program, there were 8 different activities we could have applied for. And you're right, there was a couple economic development programs. And for a while there, when we created TIF 5, I was thinking we actually might have a project that would fit under this, but it didn't come to fruition. So really, we need to complete a project in 2 years. So the less you can take out the uncertainty, because we can't predict what businesses are going to do. I mean, if we would have picked an economic development project and then COVID hit, I mean, we would have been scrambling to find another project probably. So having a public, a city-led project seemed to end up, as we went through our analysis, that it seemed like we always came back to some sort of city project. So, but you're right, economic development is something, and being that the funds that were relinquished were economic development related funds, that was my hope, but it didn't work out that way. So and we do have till January 31st to submit our application. But at this point, I'm hoping to get some sort of consensus so we can at least know if these areas are going to qualify. So if we have to come up with some other alternative plans, we have time to do that as well.
Is there any indicators you can look at early on before going through the official process, about the LMI portion of the compliance?
Yeah, well, recently I looked up low income and Section 8 housing in town. So I know along Fuller Street, there's an apartment building in there that's Section 8 housing. So being that they're a recipient of that, you'd think that the incomes would, may survey out well when you circle the area of impact. And a lot of it was just a lot of local knowledge. I think, when we were talking about this at DT, it was kind of, well, what areas do you think might be able to meet, the requirements? So there's no exact science to it. I mean, we're still gonna have to go out and do the survey and figure out, does this meet it or not?
Okay.
But, unfortunately, we don't, well, I guess fortunately, we do not qualify citywide. But if we did qualify citywide, there'd be other projects we could do, so it's.
Correct. Well, I like the scope of the projects because, again, I think as the conversation, if you look at the agenda a little bit further on, is stormwater management in a city our size. We don't have a utility. It just seems to be one of those things where you have a major flood event. It's a huge issue in the city for a short time, and then when you start budgeting and borrowing, it's something that just kind of gets ignored. So I think the fact that we have that fund out there through the close program, we can kind of fill in a need that's been there for a while that maybe we haven't addressed. I know that there was engineering studies done by Rupert Milkey quite a few years ago that probably had recommendations in there along the Second Ward Creek and other tributaries in the city to help improve the stormwater situation for us, but there's always distractions. There's streets and other financial needs, and it kind of just gets pushed off the table. I know that Alder Pfeifferon has talked to me recently about some of the strange flooding we had this spring, which wasn't typical. It wasn't really related to the dam. It was the amount of water that was coming from, that edge of town when we had the very heavy rainfall this spring. Yes, when Fireman's Park flooded out and had a river running through it for a few hours. So I think it's good to start looking at stormwater related stuff. I think it's a good investment at this point anyway.
I concur, because I heard from many constituents in that area, and they're displeased with how they perceived us to be not doing anything. I think doing something like this and having a plan for it is a great indication that we do listen to them and care about the flooding that does randomly occur.
And not to say that when you're working on stormwater, which is good, but there are certain things you can't solve. When you get 4 inches of rain in an hour, they don't design a stormwater system that I know of that we could ever possibly afford to install. So I think some of the, dredging of the ditches and increasing the capacity and storage is going to be good for quite a few different things, including the parks and the ball diamonds in those areas. Those have been an issue the last couple of years too. But getting additional storage down there is good for Kiwanis Park and other related parks. Ian, did I see you raising your hand earlier? Did you have a comment?
I mean, most of it's been said since then, so it's all good. I'm super excited at the idea of doing more stormwater work. That's, of course, something that I've been wanting for a long time, and I think our city needs far more so than what it gets attention typically. So I think this is an amazing opportunity to get it done.
All right, good to hear. Trina?
So still loving the project. I'm very hopeful. Do you know if the January 31st, this coming January, is the absolute deadline? Is there only one shot at trying to get the grants?
Well, so it is a one-time grant. It's basically the amount, this is the grant total, that's a non-competitive grant, is the amount, equal to the amount we turned over when we submitted our closed paperwork in, I think it was June of 2018. So, these funds have been held for us, and we have until, as I said, January 31st of 2021 to apply for the funds, and then we have 2 years to complete the project after that date. So, that's generally the timeline. As far as substitution, I'm still trying to get clarification, so from DOA on, if after the 31st deadline, if we changed out a project, if we can or not, and how that exactly works. I'm still trying to get a clarification on that. But we do have 3 projects here that whatever way you mix and match it, you can get over the 423, which leads me to one of my questions was, if a project, goes over the 423, the total of the grant. Now, there's no match under the closed program. So
Not
it's
required.
Yep. So it's 100%. But, if we choose, let's say if Fuller Street and Second Ward Creek were both eligible projects, that's about $120,000 over budget. I mean, I guess at a certain point, and obviously this doesn't have to be decided tonight because there's still a lot of steps to go, but just planting the seed about how would we absorb the extra costs. I know we're going to be talking about some of this stuff potentially later, but it's just something I wanted to make council aware that the other alternative that we could consider is I think there are street projects we could find that you could do an LMI project and just that would be maybe an easier way to spend the balance if that's what council chose. If not, we'd have to find a way to absorb those extra costs. And then the other thing, there's three projects in your packet. I guess I'm curious what the preference would be. I think I know what it would be. I know what ours was and mine is, but I guess I want council's opinion on the matter.
Ian, go ahead.
The Second Ward Creek to me would be priority number 1.
That's what I assumed, but
I would recommend the recommendation from staff in that order, as you have them listed: Second Ward Creek, Fuller Street, and then Maple Avenue as the third. That's my preference anyway.
okay. In talking with Zach, we the Fuller might be a more immediate need because of some failing infrastructure underneath Fuller Street, but I think we all agreed that the biggest impact would be the Second Ward Creek. So
Yeah, when I was looking at the description of the Fuller Street project, it's weird because it doesn't really encompass that large of an area, but I think it's just, I kind of know where some of the pipes are. It's problematic, but I think if we take the approach of working from the base of the river, which is the mill pond, or the base of the Storm Creek, and working our way up, I don't want to create an issue where we're kind of spot replacing and we're starting a problem here because that's affecting something, downstream. So I think going with the Second Ward Creek dredging and then onto Fuller Street, or even doing those two together, even though it exceeds the amount of the federal funding, this is all based upon estimates at this point with contingencies and everything else. But I think if we kind of start with that approach of taking those two projects to see if we can fit them in here or make them a little closer to our budget, we've also got 2 years to talk about how we can fund the remainder of it. And if it is literally $50,000 per year for the next 2 years to offset those costs through savings or unused bond proceeds or something, I don't think that would be too difficult to do.
okay.
And I think it'd be a good kickstart for the city to do some significant stormwater work that has kind of, not really received the attention that it should have in the last 10 years or longer. So what do you need from us? Just some basic direction to kind of start, because you're going to have to apply for it. Do you need a resolution passed by us to?
Oh, at a certain point, yeah, there will
Okay.
be a lot of paperwork when we actually have to do the official grant application. But as of right now, it was more trying to make sure we had projects that council supported, and then we can start doing our due diligence, and then, this will be coming back. over the course of the next few months. So, but I would think at this point, I'll follow up with Jason to maybe develop, start maybe having more detailed estimates, because I do believe they're somewhat, I'm gonna say back of the napkin, but I mean,
Sure.
call it preliminary estimates. So I will reach out to him, and I know we'll probably be discussing this at the next DT as well, now that we have these two kind of highlighted, so.
Sure, I think that there's probably getting more detail on the project. We're kind of looking at a big, huge overview of it. Dredging the Second Ward Creek is a part of that, but also I think even with the work that we did in Fireman's Park this year is significant. We've still got some underground connections underneath Fireman's Park, et cetera. We still have the culvert by the deer pen, I think is probably a pinch point and something we want to discuss in the future. We've got the Farnham Street project coming up in a couple of years, and there has been some discussion about maybe eliminating that bridge because we don't want to have a public, or I guess a park road used as a city street when it looks like that culvert may have been compromised a little bit. But I think there's kind of a larger discussion we can attach to the stormwater, and it seems like we're going to be talking about stormwater a bit more serious, probably for the remainder of this year through the budget and roadmap projects, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is a great start anyway.
Good.
So you'll be back
Oh, yeah.
with more information as you need, but
Oh, yeah.
I think we've got consensus that we want to move forward on these projects.
No,
Thanks.
that's exactly what I needed. Thank you.
All right, and I think you are probably here for the next item, which is review and discuss recommendation for Plan Commission to approve the site plan ordinance. You've been working on that for a little while with the Plan Commission.
Yeah, more than a little while. So this is one of the items that I was reviewing our code one day, and we do a great job of outlining the plans that we want for a conditional use permit. But really, when you look at our zoning code, there's no place where we have our requirements for any sort of permitted use, where we're still gonna need, grading plans, lighting plans, landscaping plans, site plans. That wasn't really clearly defined in our code, and I guess by code, somebody said, well, I don't have to give you these because you don't require them in your ordinances. So this was just an effort to kind of clean that up. So our City Attorney Johnson drafted a ordinance. This is under Chapter 78 of our code, which is actually our planning chapter, not the zoning chapter. The rationale behind that is mainly because these plan requirements also apply to land divisions and subdivisions, which is Chapter 90 of our code. So it kind of spoke to many different chapters throughout our code. So it just seemed logical to put it under this chapter. And just to go through this briefly, a lot of these, when you get under Section 4, when you're talking about contents of the site plan, those are very similar to the contents that are required right now under a conditional use permit. This has been reviewed at DT, and some of this has been modified slightly, but it's generally the same requirements under a conditional use permit. One of the items that came out of Plan Commission was Section 2, when you're talking about applicability and governance. Yeah. Basically, that section just gives a little more clarity to when these items would be required by an applicant. So it just provides a little bit more clarity on that. Tonight, I wanted to bring this to the council in I guess, see if, one, what their opinion was, if they're comfortable moving this forward, or if they wanted, or I guess I'll just leave it there and just ask what your opinions are of the ordinance and take any suggestions, and then later have a brief discussion about, the procedures in the future, whether or not I should come to council first and then kick it back to Plan Commission, or how we want to do this, because I realize this is coming from a commission that's been appointed to you guys who are making the law. So, having a little clarity would help, because I know there's a few other ordinances that are being discussed right now that will be coming back to council over the next, who knows how long, till forever, so. Anyways,
I can understand the need for the ordinance. I guess since it's been bounced around the plan commission a little bit, what were the main concerns? Was it section 2 and section 3, kind of the authority and the applicability
yeah,
discussion?
those were the two that had the most comments and made the most edits. Well, actually, 2 we created.
Okay.
In the issue that we had previously, there was no section that talked about applicability. And that was something that the Plan Commission thought that we probably should add to clarify. And it seemed to make sense looking at other codes that they had a section for that. And I didn't think it was, I thought it was appropriate, so.
So there are other examples of this out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think from being on the plan commission and discussing this previously, I think the final product that you presented here is, we couldn't ask for more.
It's good to hear from someone on the plan commission. I didn't get to watch the meeting last week. I don't have an extra 4 hours lying around.
It was 3 hours.
To watch that, but I know that it's been thoroughly discussed, I believe, so.
Yeah. Well, and this was delayed due to COVID, then it was delayed, we had, 2 or 3 new plan commission members, so it was like, well, I wanted, them to, the new plan commission members to be behind it and understand what it was about, so, it's been hanging out there for a while, so.
Sure. Is there, item under 2D, grading in excess of 4,000 square feet, is that just a number that, or something you got from a comparable ordinance,
No,
or where's the 4,000 square
The
feet?
4,000 square feet is state statute.
Okay,
So anything where you're moving more than 4,000 square feet, you need to have some sort of permit through DNR, through here at the city.
okay,
So that's where that came from. And the 4,000 square feet for the impervious surface, I just used that same limit. Because if you're adding impervious surface, you may be doing some grading work. So that's, I figured at least, if it's something that may not need a full set of plans, maybe just a site plan or what have you, there is still discretion from the zoning administrator to say, all right, well, I need to see this. And most likely, it won't just be me. I mean, I'll be the point of contact, but it will be working with the DT group, so.
yep. Well, I know that, I think we're pretty thorough as far as the staff review, but having something in the ordinance to kind of reflect that, rather than just saying, well, we do this. If you don't have it in the form of an ordinance, you don't have to do it anymore, so.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that the staff had concerns about between Plan Commission and where it's gotten here? Does the staff feel happy with this draft of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no objections.
I don't see Paul Johnson raising his hand or anything, so that's a good sign. All right. Any council members have any concerns about bringing this ordinance forward to the next regular meeting for consideration? I think we've got consensus. We'll bring that forward to the next regular meeting
Okay,
then.
good.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity to discuss it at the committee of the whole. Since it is an ordinance, it's difficult to discuss the first view of an ordinance at the regular meeting, I guess, so I appreciate the opportunity to bring it here.
Yeah, oh no, I thought that was appropriate. I thought about also in between at the August 4th, just to bring it here, just to say, hey, this is coming, but ultimately, it didn't get on the agenda, so.
I've discussed with city administrator and some other staff. I think it's just kind of always been accepted as policy, I guess, that if it comes from the plan commission, it always goes directly to the regular meeting. And there's certain circumstances, I think, lately where maybe there is a need for additional review of certain items.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want to slow things down if they're not needed, but there are occasions where I think that I'll talk to the administrator and also Matt to find out if there's no expiration date on this and it doesn't need to be done very quickly, that we just bring it into the committee of the whole for the initial review like everything else, if time permits for that to be done, so.
And I think if it's an ordinance section rewrite or a complete ordinance rewrite, probably should come to the COW for at least an initial blessing, and then can
Yep.
go to whatever committee or commission you guys deem appropriate.
Sure.
And, because I know we've had discussions about our sign code recently, and, well, we've had discussions on our zoning ordinance, our entire zoning code recently, and there's a few others that are hanging out there, building code, and I know Paul has them all written down somewhere, that will be eventually coming back to this group, so.
Okay.
And I think from now on, I'll probably start it with just an initial kickoff at the COW, and then you can kick it to whatever committee you feel, or committee or commission you feel appropriate.
All right, if the council doesn't mind, I think we're gonna skip number 12 and go right to 13 since we've got Matt up, if that's okay? Oh, that's right, we don't need that, you're right. We took care of that at the regular
Yeah,
meeting, number
sorry.
13. Wow,
No, yeah.
all right.
And I'm gonna stay for 13 or 12, because
12.
I already saw the presentation. It's
All right, thank you, Matt. So, all right, that ordinance will be forwarded to the next regular meeting for consideration. We'll move on to item number 12, which is review and discuss preliminary details of a stormwater utility. This is something that Administrator Ellefson and I have been talking about since he's shown up, and I'm really glad to see that he's being very proactive and kind of forward-thinking here on this idea. It's been rolling around in my head for a couple of years and have just kind of always heard the word that, well, you can't do that. Well, I think maybe you can if you just find the right way to do it. So I'll just turn it over to Kyle to kind of start it off.
All right, thank you. I did have a memo that was included in the packet that covered a lot of the items that I plan on covering. I just have to share my screen here for the Zoom participants. Let's see if that worked. So a lot of the information is touched on in the memo, but I did want to go over the full presentation. I have like about 7 slides. And so I wanted to cover that in a public forum so that a couple things happen. One is that we cover it with the council, but also that along this entire process, it's not about the council by itself, it's about a community-wide effort, really, because as we get into the details, if just the council supports this, it's going to be a failure, because we literally need public support to really make it happen in a way that makes sense. I think it was interesting tonight we talked about stormwater, and this $423,000 is kind of like falling from the skies, and we're really happy for it. One of the reasons is because when's the next time we're planning on having $423,000 to put at stormwater? And the answer is we don't really have a plan to ever see that kind of money because it would always have to compete with general fund priorities like fire trucks and roads and all sorts of other things that have all their own merits. And it's not to take anything from either side of that, but it's a funding conundrum, really. So I want to just kind of dive in to the basics of what the stormwater utility discussion would be. So what I want to cover is why we would even consider creating a stormwater utility, how it would work, and then what steps need to happen to go from today to successfully creating a utility. So right off the bat, I think what most people see as a good role for a stormwater utility is preventing or mitigating some of these flooding impacts. On the top, a lot of you have seen these probably, that's 2008. On the bottom is June 10th. Bottom left being Avalon, I believe, right by Avalon Park, and then bottom right being Fireman's. And 2 completely different flooding events, but both are applicable. Although, as we move forward, I want to point out that a utility is a tool. It's basically a tool to address the costs that are associated with the collection and conveyance of the stormwater and managing the risks of flooding. But the important part is the part I put in red. This is not a cure for flooding. This is not our first step towards eliminating flooding as a potential threat in the city. I think there's work that could be done to reduce the risk and mitigate the risks and maybe move water through here in a more controlled manner that is less risky to properties and allow some of our infrastructure to function as designed. But make no mistake, this is not going to cure flooding. So if people are setting that as the expectation, we need to talk them down from that ledge really quickly, because I'm not willing to commit to that, and I don't think any of you should either. So the real goal, I think, is that the projects and improvements, much like our capital plans and our street plans, the city council could achieve some long-term goals that they identify by receiving a different diversified revenue source that would allow you to set money aside specifically for a purpose that can't be used for fire trucks and roads and other things. It would be specifically for the purpose of the utility. And so that means you eliminate the competition among priorities as we decide, we have X number of dollars to spend among our priorities. This would create a different funding source that would be segregated by itself. And also, I think the ability of creating the stormwater utility would be beneficial because the cost could be allocated then to the different customers, essentially through the system, equitably. Because right now, it's basically the cost or the value of your property determines how much you pay towards stormwater. Because it's a general fund expenditure, if you have the residential properties, say maybe making 60% of all the property value in the community, that means the residential owners are paying 60% of our stormwater cost. And if the remaining 40% are industrial and commercial, they'd be paying 40% of the cost. But when you look comparatively at how much stormwater is generated on each of those classes of properties, the commercial and industrial properties are then paying far less than their share of stormwater to the system. And this would correct that by developing a system whereby the amount of stormwater you generate and the amount of stormwater you treat through green space is kind of calculated into your total cost as a user of the storm sewer system in the community. So how would it work? It operates as an enterprise fund. So this is a business-like operation that the city has, much like the water and light, much like the sewer. When you think of a business-like, you sometimes think profit and loss. I think we're not looking to cover a certain profit margin. What we're trying to do is establish a way to cover the cost that we would incur, that we would not be able to otherwise support through the levy. This is, again, a dedicated framework for a lot of things stormwater. The planning, the maintenance, the construction of stormwater facilities. The dedicated framework. This is not going to be streets. It's not going to be things like fire trucks. All worthy causes, but I can't stress enough that this dedicated framework protects all the dollars you collect to ensure that they're dedicated right to the purpose that they're created for in the utility and would be adopted by ordinance, which is stormwater. And again, the fees would be collected from the users based on the standard of measurement that I've seen out there through the utilities. There's about 120 across Wisconsin right now, is equivalent runoff units, or ERUs. And essentially what that is, they use it as a baseline measurement. Often they take an average of residential properties, figure out how many square feet of impervious surface those residential properties have, and then that is your average baseline. So say it's 2,400 square feet of impervious surface for a house, that becomes your baseline. Oftentimes I see them treat all residential properties the same. Single family, they just assume everyone is within that same envelope. And then as you get into multifamily, commercial, industrial, there's slightly different evaluations of those, but essentially it all boils down to the equivalent runoff unit. So they would take on industrial and commercial sites and say, if a residential unit is 2,400 square feet of impervious surface, and you have 24,000 square feet of impervious surface, that commercial site would then have 10 equivalent runoff units, and their bill could potentially be 10 times higher than the single-family homeowner, because they're generating a lot more stormwater by nature of the impervious surface. So again, there's the opportunity to differentiate categories between the residential and commercial and industrial. And you can also establish credits. so that, this 24,000 square feet of a commercial site, they might be able to do things that reduce their equivalent runoff units. You can establish a credit policy to say, if you install some kind of rock garden to detain water on your property or delay the amount of water that goes out, slow the rate over time, that might be worth something. And they could proactively take measures, and homeowners could as well, installing rain gardens, rain barrels, things like that, that you could have credits to reduce your cost even over and above what your normal fee would be. And so it's just a baseline of, so we're talking collecting money from people. If you look at our statement of assessment, there was about 1,950 developed parcels in the city last year. They use developed parcels because undeveloped parcels are just what you want. They're green. They don't have impervious surface. The rain falls, a lot of it infiltrates, and so you typically don't charge the undeveloped or only charge them an administrative fee. But using that 1,950 parcels, if each developed parcel, and we're kind of ignoring credits and we're ignoring the multiplication of the ERUs by large sites, and just say that 1,950 parcels paid between $3 and $5 a month, which is between $36 and $60 a year, the net revenue from that would be between $70,000 and almost $117,000. And when you look at what we spent this year, in Second Ward Creek, we spent $85,000, give or take, to accomplish that project. That project was funded through a bond, and or a note actually, we're gonna be paying that back over the next 10 years. So really, over the next 10 years, that's $8,500 a year that we're allocating to that. This could give you that much each year to really tackle some of these bigger problems. And Second Ward Creek, I think, I wasn't here during the selection of it, and it was a really good project. There's a ton of other projects that could have been done, and we saw several tonight, but we simply didn't have the capacity for $500,000 worth of stormwater projects because there would have been a levy impact to that. So, what do we need to do, or what needs to happen if we're going to create a utility? First and foremost, we just need to understand the benefits and implications. There's obviously benefits. I think we've talked about them, and I haven't even really fully explored those, but in general, there's a lot of stormwater improvements that could be made in the community, and I think in general, there's only positives to come from that. The negative implications, though, of creating a utility. So this is one of those levy problems that we have to solve. So by statute, this is what's called a covered service. And what the rule basically said is, if it's a covered service, there's two things that impact your levy. How much you spent in 2013 for that covered service, and then how much you collect in your utility for new revenue. So in 2013, we had the Gateway project, and so we had nearly $150,000 in stormwater expenses between that project and our normal stormwater efforts. So if we collected up to $150,000 through the new utility, they would simply take that exact same amount off of our levy, and it'd be a wash, except for a lot of effort. So essentially, that was the fix to make sure that communities didn't push a lot of fees onto the community just to artificially increase the tax. The Gateway project I'll mention, that was not something that was a normal ongoing revenue kind of thing or expense that we were trying to cover. That was project related, but it just happened to fall in that measurement year. So the reality is we normally spend around $10,000 a year for stormwater maintenance and efforts. There is a way to get around that, in that the one exemption to this rule is that if the council approves a resolution and it goes to a referendum, the voters can elect and approve that the city's levy is not penalized by the amount collected for that covered service. So if that referendum would pass, we would not have to take $150,000 off of our levy. It would just be allowed to continue as whatever money we collected would go to stormwater, and there'd be no penalty to the levy. Bottom line, I think when we look at the levy and the penalty and the referendum, without relief from the levy penalty, if either we're not really willing to go to referendum for it or the referendum fails, I don't think it makes sense to create a utility because you're just shifting dollars with no net gain in revenue. So that, I think, is really the linchpin. So now to the other steps. Assuming that we want to create one and we're willing to go to referendum and we understand that what the referendum's role is in, I guess, the grand scheme of getting approval. So right now tonight, we're talking about demonstrating the needs and the benefits to the policymakers. But also, I think it's very important to the residents that are now going to be watching this, they're going to be hearing about it. It's going to be the start of a conversation, whether we like it or not. But I think it's a good conversation to have because the issue, I think, could be misrepresented on what we're trying to accomplish. So I think it's very important that we have these discussions in these forums, we talk about them and about the benefits and what the intent of establishing a utility would be. And now and throughout the entire process, I think we involve the council and the public. And I know there's been a desire from some residents who are impacted by the flood to have some kind of listening sessions or public opportunities to share their feelings. I think this is kind of that same thing where we want to make sure this is a community-wide effort that we put out there. If tonight, basically, there's a desire to move forward, I'm going to be working to develop a work group. So it's going to have engineering staff, it's going to have all of our experts, and we're going to have engineering, we're going to have the attorney, myself, economic development, and start working to put some of the flesh on the bones and figure out what would this actually look like, what would we be recommending. And it might result as well in a task order to develop an actual stormwater management plan where we talk about how we're going to identify the risks and the priorities among the stormwater needs that are out there. We're going to have to figure out a projected operating budget and what the proposed fee and credit structure would look like. Right now, statewide, they're looking like it's between $10 a year and about $120 a year. I think we can be much more on the bottom half of that equation. And so, but that's all got to be determined with what our projects that we are looking to tackle. So once we do that work, that's when we get to the referendum. It seems sort of backwards because you do put in a lot of work, but until we have all the details and the fine information about what the actual cost is going to be, what the credit policy is going to be, how we're going to allocate this among different property types, we don't really have a lot for people to vote on. So I think we have to put all the hard work in up front, and then pass or fail, it is what it is. But give the voters the full opportunity to see all the details and all the information and make a fully informed choice. And I think depending on which way that referendum falls really is how the fate of the utility falls. Assuming that there's community support for this kind of a community-wide effort to address stormwater, at some point in the process, we also would need to adopt an ordinance to establish the utility and the cost and the fees, and also adopt several policies to create and operate the stormwater utility, and again, ways to apply credits, ways to object to your fee calculation, and items like that. That's kind of the short, dirty, quick, front to back about the stormwater utility. My goal tonight is really to gauge your interest on if we should be making this a priority for staff to develop some of these plans and devote more resources, or if it doesn't seem like this is the right time for this kind of cause. So I guess I'm looking at any questions or comments.
My comment would be, I think this is absolutely a great idea to move forward and to better put in a plan and financially, per property, it makes more sense. And I think just to give the general public the opportunity to weigh in their opinion and give them the optimism that we are actually trying to mitigate the once in 100 years, which we know is a lie, but the times that, that flooding happened, that we're actually taking them seriously, and it's not just some, oh, well, we're not going to worry about it until it happens again. Hopefully not, but it will, so great idea.
Ian, go ahead.
I think it's an absolutely amazing idea. I sincerely hope the referendum can get passed because it's something that Columbus has needed far before our time and will need far after our time. Flooding is increasing everywhere and it will continue to increase here. It's something that we have to be proactive about, and it is a necessity. And I think it will become more and more of a necessity in the future. So to start doing something now is what we have to do. I sincerely hope this can pass. A question I have is when we're doing projects, say where if this passes, everything goes through and we generate, the 100,000 or whatever number it is per year, are we limited to spending only that on a project? Because I don't want to do a project that could potentially create like a pinch point and then just create more issues. Like, would it be acceptable to do a more expensive project and bond for it and then use the revenue from the future stormwater to pay for that bond? Or like, how would that work?
Yeah, that's exactly how that would work. You could, do it in one or two or both methods. One is use cash on hand for projects. The other one would be to identify longer-term projects with a bigger cost and incur the debt service, get the project done, and then pay the debt service back over time with your ongoing revenues. But I think you highlight a point that's been a shortcoming in the piecemeal fashion that the levy limits have kind of forced on us, is that you do one thing and you feel good about it and it's good by itself, but this is all a system. And you change one part of the system and you have unintended consequences, and now you're moving a lot more water to the next pinch point. And so I think creating this method of a real long-term plan about how we're going to address it solves some of those concerns by saying, what do we want to accomplish? What goals do we want to accomplish? And then in what order do we achieve them so that we're not having the negative side of it, or at least limiting the negative. So we'd absolutely be able to do bigger projects.
Awesome, thank you.
Good question, Ian. Trina?
Yeah, I'm super excited by the stormwater proposal. This looks fantastic. I think we'll just need to lay out the general affordability and how it can be billed in small, painless monthly increments. I think the public will go for it.
Pete? I'm just going to echo everybody else. I'm on board with this project. My only question is, what do you think would be the timeline between now and a referendum?
This is one that some levy referendums can't go, they have to go in the very end of the year, like in the November election. We missed that deadline, which is actually okay because I wouldn't want to rush an important discussion like this. So this could go on the April election, the general election in April, and I would anticipate that we would be working kind of feverishly in the next few months to develop some of these plans and start coming back and getting feedback on if we're headed in the right direction. But to have something in early 2021 to really roll out to the council and to the public about what we're really proposing, what we're, the better we are at proposing information that's clear and we can answer all the questions and identify what frequent questions we might expect. I think the more ready we are, more prepared we are to deal with the misinformation that can kill a really good idea.
Alder Ryan, I see you've got your hand up.
Thank you. Kyle, first of all, I just want to thank you for putting together that PowerPoint. It was very informative, and I felt like it really explained everything in a very detailed manner. And I liked the honesty that you provided, and that this isn't going to be an end-all, cure-all for flooding, but I think it's important for us on council as well as the community to kind of understand why this is important. I'm just really glad that you brought this forward, and hope that you support it, but I'm really happy that had in that presentation gives me confidence that even though there may be some misinformation, like you just brought up, that's spread during the course of us educating the community about this, I feel like I have the confidence that we'll be able to portray the correct message out there with facts and figures so that our voting base will be really well informed. And I think you did an excellent job today presenting that.
I also think this is a great idea, and definitely worth pursuing, especially with the community involvement. Thank you, Kyle.
Good job, Kyle.
I think that I've been wrestling with this for years, and I guess it's just always it's not as easy as, it's not black and white when you start questioning why can't we do this, because I think once you're a community like over the size of 10,000 in population, things can be a little bit different. But when you're a small community, it's very, very hard to have your own stormwater utility and to do it without some financial impact, with the levy, et cetera. So I think you've done a lot of research and kind of laid out, this is what's going to happen if you want to go in this direction. I have a lot of other questions that I just don't feel like I'm going to ask right now, the what ifs. But it looks like, just with the example that you gave us of the other communities and how they apply this, that we have a lot of flexibility. And what I would like to learn more about is, can you create this utility to get it started? Are you limited to how that utility grows over the years? You take, for example, the wastewater utility and the water utility. The rates have evolved over the years. Well, that didn't necessarily impact our levy limits by them changing their rates. So I need to know more about that, because I think there's going to have to be a comfort level with the community. We need to start building constituencies out there with the people that have been, frustrated with the city of not maybe following through on the plans, and let them know that there is a lot of money being spent right now on stormwater, but it's really not accounted for because it's not really its own line item, I guess. When I see the number of $150,000 in 2013, that's probably what we can identify as being directly associated. But when you think about the cost of a street sweeper and the DPW employees and cleaning out and maintaining storm sewers and all the other things that go along with that, we have to take the stormwater ponds that are designed by developers when they develop those new developments, and they get turned over to the city, and guess what? We're responsible for maintaining those as well. It becomes part of the system, but there really is no acknowledged system, I guess. So I think it's good to acknowledge it as a utility so we can maintain that part of the system. With the Hibbert Street project, it's a $2 million project. Think about how much stormwater is going into that. There was no stormwater before. That's basically just being funded through the levy rather than through the utility, and I think it's smarter to track it as a utility. When I look at my utility bills, even local utility bills, there's all these 2.5% goes to this, for my cable bill or whatever. You really don't know where some of that money is going, but I think something like this, where it's a couple of bucks a month, you know exactly where it's going. It's to improve our stormwater. So I think it's going to take some public education. I think we're going to have to try to do some outreach, but I'm looking forward to recommendations that you and staff can kind of bring together on what the next steps will be. Thanks. Good job. Appreciate all the work on that. So what do you propose next steps to be? I guess this doesn't need to be brought forward to another meeting, or does it? Or is there something more formal that you want from the council to head off in a certain direction?
I'm open to the will of the committee of the whole. I think that the next step in my mind is that we need to kind of get our heads together in back of the house and figure out who's going to be involved, what roles they're going to play, preliminary timeframes, and we could easily bring that back just to report to the committee of the whole. But we could also have the full city council give kind of a vote of recommendation to move in that direction. I don't know that accomplishes anything at this point, and with the current council we have, my intent would be to deliver a result and a full plan and program prior to the next election. So it would be decided within this class of council. So if you're comfortable just having the work start and we report back in the next, month or two, I think that would work.
See everybody saying, yep, that sounds great. Appreciate that. All right, well, I'm looking forward to learning more about creating a utility. That doesn't happen every day. Yeah. Yes. Thanks again, and obviously, we don't have item number 13 because we got through that on the regular meeting, so we've got nothing else left this evening, and it's not 9 o'clock yet, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Alder Piper will make a motion to adjourn.
Alder Adams seconds.
Motion and 2 seconds to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?